Welcome to Gemini, baby. Hi. Hello. I'm your host, Divinity Jenn. Thank you so much for joining me for the 68th episode of my podcast. This is the place where we dive deeply into music, mysticism, pop culture, and so much more. We celebrate the duality of life and the cosmic chaos that comes with it. Hello, my friends. I am so excited for you guys to hear this week's episode, because we are doing something that we have never done before on Gemini, baby. We are doing a live astrology chart reading. Hey! You guys know, if you listen to my previous episodes, I've read for some of my guests, right? I've interviewed artists like Kayla Marquis, where I read her chart live on the show. However, we're not reading the chart of someone with us. We are actually going to pull a specific celebrity's chart and read what we believe is coming up in their near future, for lack of better words. And when you guys see who we picked, it'll all make sense why I'm like, I don't know if I should word it that way. Before we jump into the episode, I do want to make my normal announcements. As always, if you guys are interested in booking an astrology reading with me, you can go to my website at geminibaby.com/consultation and pick the astrology or tarot reading option. If you guys want to get even nitty gritty, I also recommend booking through Shadow and Shine, which is my collaboration with Heather. And I offer zodiacal releasing there. I do astrology readings where we look at the decans and bounds. It really is about the nuances of one chart. And so that's a fantastic way. It's also a more inexpensive way to get a reading with me as well. And as always, I do have the Gemini Baby Patreon. I actually just did a breakdown on Madonna's chart on there. I guess I'm recording this, but this is going to come out a couple of weeks after. So who knows what's going to be up by the time this episode comes out. But when I record this, I just did a breakdown on Madonna's chart and how she's a Virgo rising. Yeah, spoiler alert, one of my predictions is Madonna's about to make one of the greatest comebacks of all time. And so if you guys are into that, then I highly recommend you go there. I also just released my first ebook, The Star Power Formula, Marketing with the Midheaven. And this is not the normal marketing with the midheaven. You know, we're not just talking about like the visuals and the aesthetics and, you know, being an earth midheaven or a water midheaven and, you know, having to lean into like those general themes. That's not what this is. We're getting more into the nitty gritty of the midheaven, because sometimes the midheaven being our brand, our reputation, it isn't just about the visuals, it's about what we become known for. So if that's something that interests you guys, and I recommend going there. Again, you can go to geminibaby.com/starpower and you will find the link to the midheaven there, or the midheaven book there as well. You guys bear with me. We are in the pre-retrograde of Mercury retrograde in Cancer. And as a Gemini stellium, Mercury retrograde gets me every time, especially with this podcast. I feel like you guys can go to my episodes and clearly tell when it was Mercury retrograde, because the technology was just like acting insane. So please bear with me if there's any chaos with this episode. And then, as always, I do have the Gemini Baby playlist up as well. So you guys want to hear my curated like astrology playlist or listen to my Neptune and Sagittarius playlist, you can go to geminibaby.com/playlist. And if this is too many links for you guys, you can also just go to geminibaby.com/links and it will have all of the links there as well. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. You guys, we have a very special guest on this week's episode of Gemini Baby. Please give a virtual round of applause for Zack Locklear of Challenger Vedic Astrology and Tarot. Yay!
Hey,
welcome to the show, Zack.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. How is your day going so far?
It's going pretty good.
Yeah, you're out in Seattle, right?
Yeah.
Is it raining right now?
No, it's honestly bright and way too sunny.
Hey. I only asked that because I think when I was there, we didn't get a ton of rain, but it rained every day, at least in the area that we were in.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, but I'm so stoked to have you on this week's episode. For context, everyone, Zack and I met at the Northwest Astrological Conference just a couple of weeks ago in Seattle. And Zack was like my best friend throughout the entire weekend. And I was actually texting him or telling him at the event that I have videos of him in the background of like day one before we even met. Like, I think we met that evening. And I'm like, oh my God, you're sitting right in front of me. And little did we know what was going to happen that weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So it was very...
that weekend was great.
Yeah, I divinely led.
Definitely.
But for anyone just meeting you for the first time, can you tell us a little bit more about you and what type of astrology you do?
Yeah, so my road was kind of a hard one. I had childhood cancer when I was a kid. technically died from that.
My goodness.
I was legally dead from rolling seizures for over a minute.
My goodness.
Yeah. And let's see. Bor- I was in an abusive family and I was homeless at one point. So a lot of difficulty led me to astrology.
Yeah. And so, if you don't mind me asking, like, did all that difficulty, like, cause you to go, like, searching for astrology, or was, like, astrology, like, kind of fell into your lap by chance?
No, it definitely led to me searching for it. I was always I was never that curious about the occult, but I wanted answers. And astrology was an avenue that I saw could provide answers.
I'm so sorry that you went through all of that, though.
No, it's all good.
And so
I
I go
got
ahead.
through it. I was saying I got through it.
Yeah. I find it interesting that, a lot of, like, the astrologers that I meet, we do tend to come from very difficult backgrounds, as such as
Yeah.
myself. And so astrology can very much be a tool of not only self-discovery, but also, in my personal opinion, like, a tool of, making sense of everything that's kind of happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's the eighth house. Eighth house is sun ups and downs, psychological baggage,
Yes.
traumatic events, but it's also the occult. So
Y
it's usually going through all this that leads us to that.
yes, the death and rebirth, long live the 8th house, because we do 2 different types of astrology, and I know I'm an 8th house stellium in mine, and I remember you had some Aquarius placements in your 8th house as well. So we are, death and rebirthing 24/7.
Oh yeah.
How did you get into Vedic astrology?
So when I was 29, I discovered my master's YouTube channel. I was just kind of curious, was looking into it. I didn't even know Vedic was different from Western tropical. And yeah, he did a video on my moon placement, and it was just the story of my life. It was so accurate.
Wow.
Yeah, and after that, I I got obsessed. I started deep diving. And then COVID happened, so I had a lot of free time. So I started officially going through his school. That was like half a year to a year later. And, astrology's lifelong learning. So from there, just constantly.
Who is your master?
Kapil Raj of KRS channel.
Not familiar, but I'm gonna have to look 'em up.
He's one of the he's the biggest Vedic astrologer on YouTube, pretty much.
Okay.
English
Very
speaking Vedic astrologer at least.
Very cool. And tell us a little bit more about Vedic astrology because full transparency, I've never had a conversation with someone on Gemini Baby about Vedic astrology. And I also have never really looked too much into it. So like the
Yeah.
foundation, the principles, basically everything that makes Vedic astrology, I don't know anything about it.
No, you're good. So Vedic astrology, so it's Vedic sidereal astrology. So it uses the sidereal zodiac,
Wait,
which
another question. What's
yeah.
the difference between like sidereal and Vedic? Like, what does that mean?
Okay. So Vedic is a school of astrology, like a sect of astrology. It's like you have Western astrology and then you have Vedic astrology.
Mhm.
Whereas tropical is the way the zodiac signs are determined in Western, and sidereal is how they're determined in Vedic.
Okay.
So, like sidereal astrology, they take into account something called axial precession, which is where the Earth, while it's rotating, it wobbles. And with that, the zodiac signs, like the constellations that make them up, like the ram for Aries, that moves from our perspective on Earth.
Okay.
Because of that, the zodiac signs have slipped for tropical astrology. They don't take that movement into account. So, tropical astrology is 24 degrees off from true sky at this point.
Okay. I think I've heard things about like a 13th zodiac sign. I'm not too sure if that like plays a part, but people are saying like technically there should be like a 13th
Yeah.
sign.
No, so all right. Here, I'll debunk that a little bit. So, a birth chart is made up of the 360-degree view from Earth. So, when you divide that by the 12 houses, you get the 12 signs as well, each one being 30 degrees. But,
Okay.
anyways, yeah, so Vedic is passed down through the Vedas. And the Vedas were originally an oral tradition passed down through ancient India. It predates us, the birth of Jesus by like 4,000 years.
Wow.
It's very ancient astrology. It's the most intact form of astrology throughout history. Like the others have really gotten segmented and fractured over the years. Like with Western, now you have, Hellenistic and all this.
Hmm.
But yeah, and Vedic astrology is a lot more focused on predicting like events in a person's life and also like spiritual and religious paths as well. That's a big focus in Vedic astrology.
Awesome. So is it like based on like a certain mythology or religion, cultural
Yeah,
background?
so the Vedic, like a lot of it is Vedic mythology. So that's ancient Hindu mythology.
Okay.
And yeah, like you'll see, like especially with the nakshatras, my specialization, that's the lunar mansions in Western astrology. They have a deity that's tied to each one. And you'll see, like, depending on which ones you have in your chart, like a planet or your ascendant, and then you'll see that that person's life plays out like the mythological stories tied to those deities.
That's interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Is there I have to ask, I went to, Bali a couple years ago and, heavy extremely Hinduism, that is their main religion there. It was so incredible to kind of just, like, go through Bali and see all the different, like, statues and figures and how they, devote themselves to Hinduism. And someone that really stood out to me was Kali Ma. Is there anything in, like, Vedic astrology that is associated with her specifically?
Yeah, so Kali is the female god of destruction. So Kali is tied to Mula Nakshatra. It's at the heart, or sorry, the beginning of sidereal Sagittarius.
Okay.
So that would be, let's see, tropical. Yeah, that would still be tropical Sagittarius, but like at later degrees.
Okay, very cool. I love how, like, in-depth all of this gets because I feel like as a Western tropical astrologer, we can get super detailed, but we can also not have to get that detailed. Like, we can just look at someone's, like, just the zodiac signs and the planets and make an analysis from there, versus what I think I admire about Vedic astrology is you do bring in that mythology, you do account for the signs moving. Apologies if I'm not wording it correctly. And so I have found though that, like, as I've looked a little bit into Vedic astrology, like online, and when I say look into, I mean like TikToks, finding
Yeah,
different TikToks, it just seems super advanced and super technical.
yeah.
Like you really takes a lot of studying. How long have you been studying Vedic? I think you said since 2018, 2019.
So yeah, I started in 2019, but not officially. 2020 is when I started officially. So
Oh,
I've been doing it for 6 years now.
congratulations. That's a very long time.
Thanks. It's definitely very technical. And me, I mostly focus on, the like astrological analysis. It's like, I'm not a mathematician, I'm not an astronomer. It's like I focus on chart interpretation. That's my thing with it.
Okay. And do you find that, like, with Western tropicals, at least how I approach it, it is like a lifelong study. And sometimes you cannot, come up with meanings or interpretations until you observe the energy in real time. Is that similar to Vedic, like with the transits in the sky? Like you have to come up with the interpretations when they happen? Or do you have like a general sense of, I believe you mentioned like it was one of the most intact forms of
Yeah.
astrology. So is there like a good records of like this planetary configuration and this is how it's going to manifest and then just applying it into modern times?
Yeah, so like I said, Vedic astrology is very predictive. So it's really that's a big focus of Vedic astrology. So what Vedic astrology does is certain years of your life are controlled by a planet. This is called the dasha system. And based off of that, you're going to see inherently what's going to happen. Like Vedic astrology, transits are the last thing a Vedic astrologer looks at
Wow.
when they're doing like personal chart interpretation. So the actual placements in the birth chart are what are really going to show what happens. All the transit's going to do is it's showing that karma's to take place. It's activating it.
Okay.
But like the actual event is already shown in the chart at the moment they're born.
So do you believe in like fate and free will? I know that's a loaded question.
Yeah, so I believe in 80% fated events. And then your free will comes into play. How do you react to those fated events?
Okay. Yeah. I think I have a similar perspective. I feel like I like to call it co-creation with the universe, but the more that I got into, not just astrology, but specifically like zodiacal releasing, I was like, everything is fated to some extent. Like we could pull up our ZR chart right now, go down to like an L7, L8, go down the very minute, the second even if we wanted to, and it would be like, I don't know, Gemini or Virgo or something because we're a podcast, you know? And that's
Yeah.
those type of things make me start to question, like, what reality are we living in, and how is all of this possible?
With Vedic astrology, yeah, there's some weird things like that, like with the nakshatras, the lunar mansions. Like when Moon is transiting in or aspecting the opposite nakshatra, you'll see that like the themes of that nakshatra, like even the things you think will be tied to that nakshatra on that day. Like even for me, it's like I know what themes are gonna play out, and yet I can't help those thoughts will come into my head.
Yeah. Do you plan, like, your everyday life on astrology? Do you incorporate the astrology into just how you approach life?
So when I know like a particular lunar mansion's running that I know is going to be better for something, I might try to like plan around that. But I try to just live my life, but at the same time, a big part of what I do requires, and this is what every astrologer should do, is actually observing what takes place in the world around you. You
Mm.
know, like when certain transits are taking place. Like, okay, Mars is transiting sidereal Taurus here in 2 days. So what's going to happen when that takes place? What do people experience? And yeah, like with the nakshatras, it's like, you know, those lunar mansions, they will show like down to the day what's taking place. And I've been studying those every single day. My moon's transit through them for the past 5 years now.
Can I ask you what is your moon transiting today? What has led you astrologically to a podcast with a Gemini?
Okay, so Moon is transiting in sidereal Cancer today, aspecting sidereal Capricorn. So with this, it's in the lunar mansion of Ashleisha and aspecting the lunar mansion of Danishta. So Danishta is tied to music.
Ooh.
That's why I'm on a music podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're about to dive into a specific musician's chart, very on the nose.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how it works.
I love that. Thank you so much for breaking down all of this. Again, first ever for a Gemini baby episode. So if I sound a little bit like I don't know what to ask, I hope I'm wording these things correctly.
No,
It's
you're fine.
because it's so new. It's an entirely new concept to me. Like I'm aware of Vedic astrology, but genuinely like I want to be like respectful of my approach, but my approach is I really don't know anything. So you broke it down so eloquently. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Before we dive into our chart reading, though, I did want to ask you a little bit about your experience at NORWAC. It was
Yeah.
both of our first times attending. So, what was your like favorite lectures from that?
Well, my favorite lectures, let's see, there was the Lunar Mansion lecture, although it was mostly from, I believe, Arabic astrology perspective.
Okay.
That was really interesting. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. And I don't remember the speaker's name, but then there was Austin's lecture on the Tithys.
No idea what that is.
So the Tithys are the phases of the moon.
Okay.
He was actually going at it from both a Western perspective and the Vedic perspective, and I think he was even mixing in like Greek mythology and stuff tied to it. But basically, each phase of the moon shows what's going to happen on that particular day.
Okay.
Yeah, and even in a person's chart, like the phase of the moon that they're born in will show like the way they think to some extent.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I don't, this is the part where it's like astrology is a never ending lifelong study. And
Yeah.
so there's just so much to dive into. I actually was just seeing another astrologer. Her name's Haley Comet. She was on my podcast last year and she was doing a TikTok series where she was breaking down each moon phase and talking about what you kind of were essentially here to do. I think I was like a waning or a waxing gibbous. I can't exactly remember, but it's basically the distribution of, like, knowledge, like, you're here to share, you're here to distribute, and I can't remember which exact phase it was. And it's kinda crazy, like, again, like, astrology, there's so much to it that you're not just looking at the planets, the zodiac signs. You can just tell so much about someone based on their what the moon phase was when
Yeah.
they were born.
Moon is extremely important. Like in Vedic astrology, Moon is your mother, Moon's your oldest sister, Moon is your mind and emotions. It's how you think and feel about your life. So, like, when you make Moon the ascendant and read the chart from the Moon, you're seeing how a person's mind works,
Wow.
which you'll see the way their mind works, the way they think about life is the way their mom's life was.
That's so crazy, and the fact that you said that I have an Aquarius moon, my older sister, she's an Aquarius. That one made me laugh a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just had such a great time meeting you at NORWAC, and, Are you planning to attend UAC in Chicago?
Yes, definitely. They have a lot of Vedic going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. So we will be there. So for anyone watching, I'm gonna find Zach in Chicago. I'm gonna be like, let's do a TikTok.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, without further ado, let's shift into our reading. So, you guys, we are doing again another first here at Gemini Baby. We are going to look at Kurt Cobain chart from a Vedic perspective as well as a Western tropical perspective. We've never done a live chart reading on the podcast. So for those of you who are listening, I highly recommend either going to YouTube so you guys can follow along with the visuals of it. But we're going to dive into Kurt's chart. I actually went to go visit his memorial in Seattle. I don't think I told you that, Zach.
Okay.
I did. Yes, I went to Jimi Hendrix. This was all actually by chance. One of my friends, she's not an astrologer, but she's like into astrology. She was like, you got to go to a metaphysical store near where the conference was, and they had ended up actually being closed that day. But then I look on the map, less than a 5-minute drive, Jimi Hendrix Memorial, and I was like, this is written in the stars for sure.
It's so weird to me, like, how many famous people seem to have, like, died here, be buried here. It's like, yeah, Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain. I even learned, like, Bruce Lee is buried near here.
Wow.
I was like, "What?" I don't know, something about Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle has some good ones. I know, I think is it Macklemore? I think they're from Seattle too. Um,
I have no idea. I just moved out here. I'm just figuring all this stuff out as I go.
well, yeah, 100%. Check out Jimi Hendrix Memorial. It is honestly one of the best celebrity memorials I've ever seen. It's at a graveyard and it is so beautiful. And then Kurt's, I believe there's like a proper memorial for him a couple hours from Seattle. Like they made a park a memorial for him. So his memorial in Seattle is basically next to his old house. And there's a bench. It's not even a park, but there's a bench. And it's not even the original bench that was there when he passed. They installed a new one, and so fans basically just ride on the bench, they leave him gifts. So that is, like, right next door to the house that I believe he passed away in.
Uh,
Um, yeah, it was cool just to kinda see it and just like, "Oh my god," like, Seattle is something is definitely happening in Seattle music-wise, and I guess astrology-wise too.
yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
let's jump into our reading.
all right. So here we have Kurt Cobain's chart. So with this, the big thing with his death, let's talk about that. So he has Saturn in the eighth house. So Saturn is a person's heaviest karma. It's in the eighth house of death. And it's in Uttar Bhadrapada, the UBH. This nakshatra, or lunar mansion, is tied to drugs, addictions. So we see that that would be involved in the way he would die.
Wow.
And then we see Venus and Jupiter. I'm covering Venus. Can't do that. All right. Venus and Jupiter in the eighth house in the Navamsha chart. Now, in Vedic astrology, there are divisional charts, and each one represents different things. So this one is tied to later life and marriage. And this is like from mid 30s onwards. But he has Venus and Jupiter in Ashlesha, which is that other nakshatra that I said Moon was transiting in. So Ashlesha is tied to chemicals and addictions. So it's also tied to manipulation. So we see that he could have been, of course there's drug use, but also he could have been manipulated.
So I just looked up like how did Kurt Cobain died, and they said it was officially ruled a suicide resulting from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and that there was traces of heroin and diazepam. I don't even know what that is in his system.
I have no idea what that is. But okay, now let's see. So I do see he has his moon in Ardra in the birth chart. So that shows there would be depression that he'd deal with. Moon is a person's mind and emotions, and Ardra is tied to heartbreak and sorrow. But it's receiving the aspect of Ketu, which Ketu is the south node of the moon for, Western viewers. So we definitely see that, Ketu shows like disappointment. Ketu's like separation. So he would feel separated, like mentally and emotionally from people.
Mm.
So we definitely see that there's that depression that comes into play in his birth chart. And he has something similar in his later life chart. Ketu and Moon conjunct.
And so when you say later life, like how much later? Because I believe he
The
passed away at the age of 27.
age of 27.
Mm.
So one thing that's important to keep in mind with this divisional chart is it is tied to later life. But this is basically considered the luck and fortune of a person. So it applies throughout all of their life. It's just it primarily activates later. But
So what
also when a person's married. Like I
okay.
said, it's the marriage chart as well.
So would this chart still, like, play out even after his death, like, with the news
Yes.
that comes out and okay.
Absolutely. Like, for instance, that Venus and Jupiter in his eighth house. Eighth house is a person's legacy. So he'd probably be remembered fondly. Those are two benefics. Now, focusing on this Ketu and Moon, though, in the fourth house, once again, we see that mental and emotional, like, disconnect, like feeling lonely. Like, you see, there are no planets in the other houses beside the moon. Also, Ketu, or the south node of the moon, in Vedic mythology, is a headless dragon.
Mhm.
So he would be headless. He wouldn't think clearly in marriage and later life. Ketu relies on intuition, gut instinct. But we see innately there's not thinking clearly. And Ketu is in Uttar Bhadrapada, which we just talked about with that Saturn. Once again, headlessly taking drugs,
Mm.
having addiction issues.
Yeah, I think that all lines up with everything that we know about Kurt Cobain.
Yeah. Now, let's see. Another thing that we see here is with that Venus and Jupiter in the layer life chart, Neptune sitting there. NE. So Neptune shows that there could be something hidden, something mysterious tied to the way he'd die. Another thing that we see is in the birth chart, his Rahu, the north node of the moon, is in Bharani. So Bharani is a nakshatra tied to Yama, the god of death. With it being Rahu in this, Rahu, the north node, that is the person's soul's desire.
Wow.
So soul's desire is tied to death.
Okay, so this is gonna sound crazy and maybe a little controversial, but
Yep.
it kind of sounds like his destiny was to come in and make a massive impact and then die.
Vedic astrology shows these kinds of things very clearly. Like right off the bat, you just immediately see it. And Bharani is tied to Yama, the god of death. With this, like everyone follows death to the grave, right? So you see when a person has very prominent Bharani like that, they'll have a very large following. They can be very famous.
Wow.
And then what really makes it clear for me, what probably happened, he has that Saturn in Purva Falguni. So Saturn is a person's heaviest karma. It's in Purva Falguni, that PPH.
Hmm.
This is tied to codependent relationships, and when things aren't good in them, suicide.
My goodness.
So after looking at this, I actually lean he probably did commit suicide.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of speculation right now. I believe, last year, there was new reports that he may have not killed himself, that it may have been a murder. And, I believe ever since he passed, and I don't think I was alive yet when he passed, but basically since I become aware of him, there's always been conspiracy theories about his death, like who did it, what happened, is it true? I think it was around that time where a lot of these performers were passing from drug use, from suicide, and from stuff like that. And so the conspiracy theories are just crazy. But you're saying that you do believe it's like suicide.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely leaning that way for sure. Now, we do see other things here, like we see those, Venus and Jupiter in Astrological. So this is tied to snakes and also cats, but it's tied to manipulation.
Mm,
So with this, we see he could have been manipulated, especially when it came to like finances. Like it could have been like somebody kind of wanting control over him. Like we see that element could be there.
hmm.
He could have a lot of hidden enemies because the sixth house is the house of enemies. The lord of that house, Venus, is in the eighth house. Eighth house is like hidden things, conspiracies.
I think what stands out to me though is like if I was reading this in I would almost be like the Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune. Like would you call that a conjunction with all three of them being there?
Yeah, if they're all in one house, they're definitely conjunct
Okay.
in Vedic astrology.
It almost makes me think of like the Venus, his like magnetism, because you can go to any popular chain store today and pick up a Nirvana t-shirt. Or, basically people are just constantly profiting off of the Nirvana name. Jupiter makes me think it's like the abundance of it, and Neptune is almost that idolization expanded. And then
Oh yeah,
what did you say? What house was that?
that's the eighth house.
The eighth house. So how is it? So, sorry, more questions.
Okay.
It says number 4, but you're saying 8. So how does that work?
So the number is the zodiac sign.
Okay.
So this would be sidereal Cancer.
Okay.
Yeah.
The more you learn.
No, I didn't want to go into every little detail because it would get too confusing. It's like, okay, now I have to show everybody how to read the chart.
That's okay, that's okay. It's just so
Okay.
fascinating. Like, again, this is like I get it's astrology, but this is also still, like, a foreign language to me. Just
Oh yeah,
looking at it, I'm like, "There's so much to
I
unpack here."
I feel the same way when I'm looking at a Western tropical chart. I'm like, what is this?
Now, if you don't mind me, like, asking, and if you're comfortable, do you have, like, any predictions of how all of this is going to play out?
So for that, we would want to look at, what's transiting. So, and especially like the dasha he's running. So right now he's running this Venus dasha. Vimshotri is the main dasha system or planetary time period, and that's running from 2026 to 2046. So these run even after a person dies. So you
Okay.
see the date there up until 2046.
Mm,
So with this, we have to pay attention to Venus primarily. Venus is in the 8th house in the birth and later life chart. So we see all these conspiracies tied to his death. All that's been coming alive recently.
mhm.
I don't know when they, began exactly, but yeah.
I was, like, Googling, the news, and yeah, so basically the headlines are, "Seattle police captain agrees that Kurt Cobain's death could be murder." But then this just came out in February, "Seattle police will not reopen Kurt Cobain's death case, so the case is gonna remain closed." And then now there's a
Yeah.
Utah investigator saying he has new evidence that shows Kurt Cobain was murdered. So I guess if there's not an official reopening of the case, it's just, I guess, maybe people who worked on that case or have been actively investigating are saying there's new, like, the evidence, and what that evidence is,
Oh yeah.
who knows?
Now another thing that we see here is that Venus in the birth chart is in Purva Bhadrapada, that PBH. So this is a constellation or nakshatra that's tied to mental health issues. It's tied to harming children. And, it's in the 8th house of conspiracies of death.
Mhm.
So we see there's all these conspiracies about this Epstein stuff.
Yes, that's what my mind went through. I saw a video of him doing an interview, and he was talking about, I think, hanging out or befriending a model who may have been a part of, like, everything that happened with Epstein.
Oh, yeah. And look at this to add to what you were just saying. So the 11th Lord is Mercury. It rules the 3rd sign of Gemini. So Mercury is in the 7th house in that same constellation, that same lunar mansion, Purva. So we see, even, with the friend he would deal with tied to that.
Wow. Do you think there's gonna be, like, do you believe the case is gonna remain closed?
So, I mean, for that, we would have to go into like his sub periods and stuff to really dig deep into it. I think, based off of like what I'm seeing in here and stuff, that whatever is found out will be found out before Rahu and Ketu leave Leo and Aquarius and Sidereal. So let me see when that'll be. So this is a transit chart. Don't worry about trying to read it. To see when those transits will end.
So
Oh,
much happening.
yeah, yeah. No. All right. So, yeah, whatever it is will be found out by December of this year.
Wow, that's
What
very soon.
Yeah, whether or not it's going to, be revealed or not. And the reason I say that is because Rahu is transiting in the 7th house here. So 7th house is the masses. It's all the people out in the world. It's a very
Mhm.
visible house. And Rahu is in a nakshatra tied to crime right now, Satyabisha. So we're seeing like, okay, all this stuff tied to crime. It's also tied to secrecy.
Mhm.
So we see that all these things, like the world is desiring that tied to him, by wanting to know about this stuff.
And so, I guess, with the world wanting to know that, does it show, like, the world is going to get that, or is it more so, like, this is just what people want from him right now? And he may obviously, he's not here, but we may not get those answers.
Yeah, so it's definitely more so what the world wants than what they'll get.
Okay.
Yeah, because like we see, like Saturn is still transiting in Pisces. So if something was going to be physically revealed, it would probably require a physical planet. Whereas, Rahu and Ketu, the north and south node of the moon, they're shadow points. Like they're hidden points. The only time you ever see them is during an eclipse. So that is the one time where something might happen here.
Okay.
So there's going to be an eclipse in Aquarius, I think in September. Let me check my phone real quick.
I was gonna say if the I don't know if it works like this in sidereal, but like, do you find that the transits that happen in sidereal also like are reflected in like Western tropical, like not maybe not the exact like zodiac signs, but around the same time?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
transits are still happening at the same time. It's just the
okay,
interpretation of what sign they're in is different.
okay, then I think it's August,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
eclipse.
So the lunar eclipse is August 28th. But yeah,
Yeah, we'll be getting ready to go to
yeah, that's right before you act. So if
Yeah,
something's revealed, we'll find out around then.
the astrologers will be talking.
Yeah, delving into all that for sure.
Yeah, this is great, Zach. I'm kind of at a loss for words because I'm like just taking it all in, and I'm just like, again, it's another language to me. Is there anything else in his chart that stands out to you that you want to call out?
So here, he was a musician. Let's talk about that for, a quick minute. So he has his destiny point in Rohini. So
Wait, so
Rohini,
is this different? This is when you say destiny point, this is different than Rahu.
yeah, this is different from Rahu. So destiny point is a mathematical point between the sun and the moon that shows what a person's destiny is, like very directly.
Okay.
So we see it's in the 10th house. 10th house is career, status, fame. And Rohini is tied to being very, very creative, very artistic. It's in the sign of Taurus, the sign of the house of speech.
Singer.
And Rohini is tied to singing. But yeah.
That's amazing. Do you find that people live out their astrology chart regardless? Like you can't get like pulled off of your astrology chart. Like, do people always fulfill the destiny or do they not?
So most people do. It is very difficult to change one's, karmas in this life. That's not something most people can do. That's why most people struggle in the world.
Hmm.
It requires a lot to do that. There's, all these secret things you have to learn to be able to do that, or you have to come across the right people who can help you. That's why the
Hmm.
motto of my business is challenge your fate. Don't just accept what life hands you.
I asked that because, like, if his destiny was literally to be a musician, like a famous musician at that, I think about all of like the musicians that I know because a lot of what we do here on Gemini BB deals with music. And given like modern times, it is very difficult to be a successful musician and make it like, like an actual career.
Yeah.
So do you see like in other people's astrology charts, like, okay, your destiny is to be a musician, but then, like, they can't fulfill that because they're stuck in a 9 to 5.
Yeah. So the way to see that is you have to look at Saturn and Venus. Because Saturn is a person's career, Venus is the way a person makes money. And what you want to look at is planets that are trine from Saturn and Venus. Those are going to determine how that money is made, like how that career is affected. What do they have to do for their career? So here we see Jupiter and Neptune and Venus. So career is going to be very creative, very artistic. There's also going to be something like elusive tied to it, illusionary with Neptune being there. So,
Could, like
yeah, what's up?
I was gonna say, could Neptune be, like, since he passed away so long ago, like, the idolization of him still sticking around, like, after the fact? Because, there's been a lot of performers who have passed young, but Kurt Cobain specifically has been able to, like, transcend and become almost this, like, global phenomenon, one of the most popular musicians of all time, where
Yeah,
it's almost like the short time that he was here with us and the short time that he was a musician is now outliving the amount of time that he was even alive.
oh, yeah, for sure. And another thing you want to see, like, okay, can this person, make a career through singing? Does the sign of Virgo or Capricorn, either one, sit in their second house of the voice? Because Virgo is the original sign of the sixth house of work, and Capricorn's the original sign of the 10th house of career. So will their work or career be tied to their voice? If they're a singer, of course. So we definitely see, in his case, Virgo is in the second house in the birth chart. So, making, work tied to singing, using the voice, and career in the layer life chart in the second house. So career would involve speaking or singing.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Like, can someone have like I asked this for all of my musicians out there who are like struggling to really make, music their full thing. Like,
Yeah.
if society says everyone's gonna be like a broke, struggling artist who have to post 20 TikToks in one day every day for who knows how long, the foreseeable future, does that like can they I guess what I'm asking is like, is it possible for your destiny to be like a musician or to be something extraordinary like that, but then you won't be able to make money from it, but then like your destiny saying like you still have to pursue it even if you're not making money?
Yeah. So, ways to read that, like the 10th house from Jupiter, that's going to show what a person has to do to survive in this world. Because Jupiter is a person's life force. So it's the karma of your life. But 10th from Saturn is what a person wants to do for work. So, you can see like, okay, what does this person want to do versus what they have to do? And you have to look at like, okay, do these things coincide at some point?
Hmm.
And they change in the later life. So you take that into account too in Vedic astrology.
Interesting. And so like, is it possible that I guess, is there ways to, like, mitigate that? Like, I wanna be a musician, I don't wanna work my 9 to 5. Can I just make money off of my music? Or is it more like you have to wait to the transit, to the window of opportunity presents itself?
Yeah, so in Vedic astrology, there are remedies that you do. Like for me, Vastu remedies. That's like feng shui. It's where you control the directional energy within the home. And basically you enhance traits that are weak in the chart, or you try to prevent negative traits within the chart. And I've had miraculous things using Vastu. I was born without a sense of smell. And I did a remedy where I put a water fountain in a certain direction of my home, and suddenly I had a sense of smell out of nowhere.
Wow. I
I was
remember you
like,
telling me this.
yeah, I was like 30 years old. And I'm like, what?
I can
I had a
smell
new sense.
again.
I had a new sense out of nowhere. It freaked me out. I wasn't even doing it for that purpose. I was trying to do other things, but that was a side effect.
They're like, "No, you need to get your sense of smell back. You need to be
Yeah,
able to
apparently.
smell the roses as they bloom."
Yeah,
Especially
and
Seattle has
enjoy
such
life.
incredible like flowers. I was shook seeing like all of the like flowers and just the nature in general. It was so pretty.
Yeah, I went to the university quad here back in like late March. They had an amazing like cherry blossom festival going on.
Were you able to smell?
I was.
There you go.
Oh gosh. Do
Yeah,
we have time to look at your perspective now?
we do. Let's switch over.
Yeah.
We are using AstroSeek. A shout out to AstroSeek. Thank you so much to Peter for allowing us to use his charts on the podcast and throughout my socials, ebook, and everything. Highly recommend AstroSeek for anyone who is into Western tropical astrology. And I don't even know, do they? I don't even know if they do sidereal. I should know, but I don't. Fantastic free website, and it is very, in my opinion, is one of the best astrology websites out there. You can get really into the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah, I use them to get like birth times and stuff for people.
Yeah, they're great. So we have Kurt's chart pulled up, and right off the bat, I like want to just scream looking at it because I'm just like, there's so much going on here already. He is a 23-degree Virgo rising with Pluto and Uranus conjunct the ascendant. We're using Placidus, so technically Pluto is in the 12th house retrograde, but this immediately says to me like this is someone who's going to make an impact on like a cultural generational level with that Pluto and Uranus conjunction there. Granted, they are retrograde. So a lot of the like his impact has been, it's not necessarily delayed, but it like reverberates throughout time. I like to think
Yeah.
of Madonna and Zara Larson. They have their Mercury retrograde. And while it's not, the outer planets, they are two incredible performers who show how retrograde energy can manifest. Zara Larson having countless of hits. And then none of those hits really connecting with the brand of Zara. And then many years later, everyone's finally connecting the dots. And
Yeah,
so,
retrograde, like it's in the name, so like a planet tries to go forward, but then it has to go back.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so people went back.
Yes, yes, 100%. And that is a big part of Kurt's story here with those planets conjunct the ascendant. It's, like the Pluto people are obviously going to be mourning him, grieving him. Uranus is their level of shock, so the sudden death, and yet they keep going back to him because of his excellent work, which is the Virgo. This is someone, who's critically acclaimed, someone who is excellent at his craft. I want to jump to the descendant straight across the chart because his descendant has Venus and Chiron and Mercury basically conjunct his descendant. Now he's an early degree Pisces as well. And so this just speaks again to a lot of how much like other people were central to his life. And I haven't even jumped up to like his 10th house moon in Cancer and like his Jupiter retrograde in Cancer in the 10th house. Truly, this is an individual who was made for the people, who came here with a specific purpose of dealing with just mass quantity of individuals. With Venus and Chiron and Mercury conjunct the descendant, we talked briefly about it, but there's a lot of speculation about his death and his relationships and his money, and that is reflected in the chart very much so. Venus Chiron, I think about Courtney Love and a lot of the conspiracy theories around her and how that relationship is very prominent to his story even after his death. And with it being directly opposing his ascendant, like you can't really separate Kurt Cobain from that relationship. And even if we're not talking about his romantic relationships, I think about just Nirvana and his bandmates like Dave Grohl, who's now, arguably has made one of the most successful musicians of all time himself with like Foo Fighters and has made a name for himself outside of Nirvana. And
Yep.
his relationships are so prominent in this chart as well that there is, he's not with us, so he can't speak to this clearly. But I almost wonder if sometimes the relationships as he was coming up overshadowed the work that he was doing, and people were more interested in like who's he dating, who's he's hanging out with, and that could definitely have been a pain point for him, maybe even fighting with his bandmates, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And something else that he had, you know what? I didn't even realize that's Saturn as well. Saturn's right here in the 7th house, also in Pisces. I was just looking at Black Moon Lilith. So he has Venus, Saturn, and Chiron all basically conjunct within degrees of each other. So, Zach, you had mentioned Sarda's like your Saturn's your greatest karma. It's also showing here in his 7th house that like his relationships. Saturn's at 28 degrees, so it's in the last few degrees of Pisces. And so his biggest karma in his life truly was his relationships with other people. It's in Pisces, so there is this level of illusions, deceptions, not seeing things very clearly. The drugs come here. I wouldn't be surprised if he was using with his friends, with people close to him, with his bandmates. And then you add on Black Moon Lilith here in Aries. That does speak that there could have been someone that was close to him that went against him. Black Moon Lilith being like the dark feminine, it's our shame, it's our guilt. Granted, it's his Black Moon Lilith, so there is that like rebellious energy with him. I wouldn't be surprised with this sitting in the 7th house of contracts and commitments if he was trying to leave a contract or was trying to break a contract with someone, and that ended up defining more of his life than he anticipated because of this cluster of planets here. And what makes me think it's him breaking it is the Aries aspect, Aries being, ourselves. It's the individual.
Yeah.
And, there's so many ways to read this, but for the sake of time, I do want to jump up to his North Node and his part of fortune conjunct in the sign of Taurus in the 8th house. We talked a little bit about the 8th house, but, that's transformation, that's death and rebirth, that's your wealth, that's the occult, that's your ancestors. And with his part of fortune, let's just, again, to keep it very brief, like your fortune is fortune, it's your abundance, it's your luck. It's also like, your life path to some extent. With that being conjunct in Taurus, so much of his destiny truly was to make a long-term impact that was not only going to generate a significant amount of wealth, but it was also going to eventually almost stand the test of time when it comes to his community and to his people. It doesn't show it here in this chart, but his ascendant and then all of these like Virgo placements, they basically trine these North Node as part of fortune. I don't have the aspects pulled up fully here. And so that trine as earth signs is like, no matter how Kurt showed up in the world, he was always going to leave an impact with his ancestral line, with his own personal transformation, and it was going to stand the test of time. The outer planets being conjunct the ascendant just speaks to that like global cultural sensation aspect. The Taurus and the Mercury, it's like, honestly, it's giving like endless wealth that Kurt Cobain came in here to. Taurus being the singer, create endless wealth with his singing, but also a lot of it was going to come during his death or after his death. So whoever is looking after Kurt Cobain's money right now, they're making a lot of money because if the North Node, Rahu, is the head of the dragon. Zach, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the way that I'm like approaching this.
No, you're right.
That's like never ending. That's insatiable, you guys. Like this Kurt Cobain is very much someone who is going to make money forever if we want to just be very blunt about it. I have to jump to his second house here because he has Mars and Scorpio in the South Node and Scorpio. So, I don't I this is all strictly for entertainment purposes only, but I wouldn't be surprised that if, let's say, if it wasn't a suicide, but it was a murder, they murdered him for his money. And, if we look at the cusp of the eighth house being in Aries and we find the ruler of Aries, Mars, it's in Scorpio here in the second house. So, this is someone that's calculated. This is someone that's manipulative. This is someone who goes after they want and is very good at it because if we're using like the traditional planetary rulers, and not like talking about Pluto here and just focusing on Mars, Mars is home to Scorpio. And so this person was very well equipped to accomplish what they needed to get done, or whoever, or if it's multiple people, I don't know the specifics, right? But
Yeah.
this south node almost makes me believe that these people, this person, whatever this is, if he was murdered, they are still benefiting from this situation. However, I do want to talk a little bit about the transits. There's honestly just so much going on in Kurt's chart. Like every part of it is groundbreaking in more ways than one. Like if we talk a little bit more here about the second house, like the Mars conjunct the South Node, like again, it's just giving endless wealth, endless income, but also there is this pain point with Mars being here. And so if he was murdered, this person was very well equipped to do what they had to accomplish. But
Yeah.
to some extent, I don't want to get too much into like past lives, but I almost wonder like what the fuck, what happened in a past life with Kurt to have this type of conjunction here. And he has Neptune and Scorpio.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mars and Ketu shows like past life violence being
Yes,
taken precedent.
yes, yes, 100%. And Neptune is in the third house also speaks to like we don't see exactly what was going on in his life on an everyday basis very clearly. That there was a lot of dark things happening in his life on an everyday basis, but also like with his mental health, there was this like cloudiness. We know he used drugs, and so that definitely could play a part of it. But if we are just like strictly talking about just the planets here in Scorpio, this just makes me think something went down in a past life that gave him like the almost like one of the I don't know, it basically made him like the most famous person ever in this lifetime, but he couldn't fully like enjoy that because there
Yeah.
was that constant almost like enemy, whether it was of himself or other people. And so like and if we're not just talking about other people, like his Mars is still in Scorpio. So that's still him. And he was someone that worked towards his values, who worked towards his goals, and who really stood on his business for what he believed in. But that South Node makes me think like he couldn't fully stand up for himself, stand up for his values or his morals fully as much as he wanted to because there was that South Node energy and that layer of fogginess here with Neptune.
Yeah.
Jumping up to his 10th house, technically his midheaven is in Gemini. Uh, Obviously, again, he's a singer, is ruled by his Pisces Mercury here, in the 6th house. So that was his career, everyday life, 6th house dude. His routine was to be a musician. But his moon being in Cancer and him having Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. I actually love that we're speaking so much about retrograde planets and artists having retrograde planets because I feel like retrograde placements tend to get like a lot of crap from like pop astrologists who are
Yeah.
like, Mercury retrograde, you're doomed. But this just speaks that truly Kurt was a very sensitive individual and he was very emotionally tuned and channeled from his emotions, as most musicians do, right? That's just like the
Yeah.
state of being a musician. But I think for what makes Kurt really unique in this sense is it's in the 10th house. So it was very visible. He wore his heart not only on his sleeve, but literally like planted on his face. Everyone saw
Oh
Kurt
yeah.
Cobain and, wanted a piece of him and felt very drawn to him, especially because, the moon is home to Cancer. So he was already naturally seen as someone who, again, just like a very talented musician. The Jupiter retrograde, though, is interesting. I almost wonder if when he was first starting off, and this is, I don't know Kurt Cobain's like or Nirvana's like come up in detail. I don't know like the full blown history. I'm not going to be able to tell you guys that. But I almost wonder if there was some pushback when they were first getting started, because this is making me think there was like a delay. Maybe it was with his family or with his friends. I don't see immediate support here with what he was
Yeah.
pursuing because of this retrograde. But
It's
then
like what
go ahead.
sorry, am I good?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah. So with retrograde planets, like you see, they have to go back and repeat things. But retrograde planets, like you were saying, like there's a stigma about them. Well, the thing about that is after they've gone through all that, they become a master at that thing. So, it's like, yeah, struggle, but then they become so good at it that they are the best.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, that's
And
clearly in his case.
absolutely. I mean, we were just saying it earlier, like you could walk into any Walmart today and go buy a Nirvana t-shirt. You can walk into Target, like Nirvana is one of the most popular bands of all time that it has gone past many, many generations. And so this just makes me think like it is still forever going to stick. Like Nirvana is always going to be famous. I also think this could also speak a little bit to like his bandmates, like Dave Grohl kind of like taking everything that happened and really kickstarting like with Foo Fighters and just becoming one of the most famous artists in his own right, versus where I think back in the day, Kurt Cobain kind of overshined him. And so this also shows maybe Dave going back the band, obviously not continuing after Kurt passed and Dave having his own success here. Truly, there is just like a lot going on. I'm thinking about the transits. Zach, when you said you believe maybe around December there could be some news, I would agree that around like the winter time of next year, December, January, February, we have our final eclipse. I believe it's in Pisces because we've had Virgo and Pisces eclipses happening since the end of 2024, I believe. And we're finally going to wrap up that because we've already had our first eclipses in Aquarius and Leo, but it's, I think, earlier in February. I think it was Aquarius and Virgo, or was it Pisces? I can't remember. Oh, I might have
Oh
the
no, I'm sidereal.
yeah, we'll figure out, this take everything that I say about the timing with a grain of salt. Please you guys do your own research. But I just know for sure we're done with the Virgo and Pisces axis in February. And so with, Kurt being a Virgo rising, a Pisces sun, having a Pisces stellium, this is not the last of what we're going to hear about Kurt. There's going to be stuff, honestly, that probably comes out maybe in this fall around August during the eclipses, and then again in February. But then, if I'm actually being totally honest, next year, I believe in July for a year we're going to have Jupiter and Virgo. So, if we want to look at it from that perspective, the opening of whatever is about to unfold with Kurt with Nirvana is kind of just getting started because we have Jupiter going to enter Virgo. But then we think about Uranus and Gemini, and eventually Uranus is going to go over his midheaven. And if we were using whole sign, it'd already be going through his 10th house. So this just tells me there's going to be some really shocking and unexpected things that we're going to learn about Kurt. I don't know if it's in regards to his passing. I don't know if it's in regards to the music. Whatever that is, this is kind of just the beginning for him. Pluto has been squaring his Mars here in early degrees of Scorpio, which is 1 degree. So granted, Pluto's already made like the official square, like it's past that, but eventually it's going to catch up to his south node, which is at 10 degrees of Scorpio. So it's going to be a slow burn, but I would say by 2020, whenever Uranus finishes in Gemini, I think it's like 2032 or 2033, something like that. We're
Yeah.
gonna have some really shocking information. I know those are really far ahead predictions, but we are kind of just getting started in whatever is about to come out about Kurt. So
Is our planets always move too slow for our liking?
yes, and then I'm thinking about when Uranus goes into Cancer, I'm like, oh my God, his people might be exposed here.
Yep,
But that's
sign,
far down
sign
the
up.
very, very far down the line. But yes, that is my interpretation on Kurt's chart.
Nice.
Let me stop sharing. Zach, I know we've been chatting for a very long time. I've actually kept you over time, so thank you for sticking around. But did you have any last things that you would like to share about you, yourself, Vedic astrology before we wrap things up?
Yeah, yeah. So I will be starting my own school if you want to learn Vedic astrology yourself officially later this year. And I have my YouTube channel, Challenger Vedic Astrology and Tarot, if you'd like to, learn from me there with my YouTube videos. And if you want to, get in touch with me, get a reading from me, there's my website, challengervedicastrology.squarespace.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for everyone listening, I will include the link that Zach mentioned in the description of this episode so you guys can follow along with Zach, learn from him, book a reading. He read for me a little bit at NORWAC, and right off the bat, he was like extremely accurate. I remember one thing you told me was, "You're friends with like royalty." And I was like, yeah, I work in the music industry, I guess. That's how we're going to refer to it
Yeah.
as. Yeah. And so you were reading me like a book. Actually, something else that you said to me. I was kind of confiding in you about some of my interpersonal relationship issues, and you told me December is when all of that is gonna like stop being so prominent in your life. And I was like, thank you, that helps a lot. But then you were like, but you have to wait until December, and I was like, fuck. No,
Try
that's
try to be honest.
no, that's what I think it makes some of the best astrologers. Like, we cannot be super positive 24/7, and we can't be super negative. Like,
Oh,
life
yeah.
is life, not everything is gonna be like, I won the lottery, I'm now gonna go buy my penthouse in New York City and hang out with, I don't know,
Yeah.
Madonna, since we mentioned her earlier, like.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not gonna be cruel, but my job is to help you through the difficult things in life, so
And that type of information truly does
doing the
help me,
reading.
because it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I know I'm gonna be beefing with person A, B, and C for a little bit longer, which sucks, but it's also like, now I can, like, lay that to rest, like, that the energy is just the energy, and I can choose what to do with it or whatever, or choose not to, but it ends in December, so I just gotta make it to December.
Yeah, just now use your free will during that time. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So thank you for that. Something
You're
that we
welcome.
do at the end of every Gemini Baby episode is recommend 3 songs to our listeners. Which 3 songs would you like to recommend today?
Okay, so let's see. First would be Hurt, the cover by Johnny Cash. Second
Okay.
would be Unravel by TK, which is a Japanese singer.
Very cool.
And then the third would be, let's see, it would be I Not Crazy and You Are.
MUR, is that the artist or is that the name of the song?
That's the name of the song. I Not
Okay.
Crazy and You Are. And that's a Japanese song from a band called Ling Tosete Sugur.
Very cool. I've not listened to any of these songs, so I'm excited to listen to some new music.
Yeah. Hurt's the one in English, but the others sound great.
I love that. I usually don't recommend like songs with my like interviewees. I usually just film it after, but I kind of want to recommend a song with you so I don't have to go back and film it after, and then you can tell me what you think.
Yeah.
Obviously we have to honor Mr. Kurt Cobain since we just did a reading for him. I want to recommend Lithium by Nirvana, iconic, legendary song. I think, all of Nirvana's songs are just incredible, but that is definitely one of my favorites. I actually think I'm going to recommend 2 because I'm looking at the other one. I'm like, just do it. It's fine. The
Yeah.
second one I'm going to recommend is Come As You Are, also another iconic Nirvana song. I told myself do not recommend Smells Like Teen Spirit because I feel like that's just too basic. So these are still very, very popular ones, but I'm going to recommend that one. Um,
Yeah. I'll definitely check them out.
yeah. Wait, you're telling me you've never listened to Nirvana before?
I have not.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay, so you really went into this reading blind.
I was, blind as a bat.
That's okay. I think the last song I would like to recommend is, this is gonna be controversial and really random, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Iconic by Mistake by La Seraphim, Iliad, and Cat's Eye. They are like K-pop, but Cat's Eye's not really K-pop. They just came up in the K-pop like system. I think this is a great song to recommend because I feel like Kurt, we were talking about how he's like fated to be a singer, but not, didn't obviously get to live his full life. And I feel like this song, Iconic by Mistake, is a great representation of like being iconic, but then like by mistake, but not really by mistake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those are the 3 songs I would like to recommend today. So,
Nice.
hey, I hope you like
Yeah.
Cat's Eye.
I have to look that one up. You're gonna have to text it to me or something. That name was something.
Yeah, I'll send you the link because it's 3 different groups. The first 2 groups are K-pop groups, and I'm definitely saying their name wrong. La Seraphim, and then Iliad. The K-pop fans are about to come for me for this. They are. Do not flip.
I mispronounced that Japanese band on purpose because otherwise you won't know how to spell it if I pronounce it right.
That's okay. So is it like J-pop?
No, it's like Japanese like rock metal.
Okay, very cool. So, yeah, people are gonna come for us because we cannot pronounce any of these artists' names.
Hey, at least we enjoy the music. We're multicultural here.
Exactly, and at least we can read astrology. We can read that, but we cannot pronounce people's names. I think it
Yeah.
evens out, so
Yeah, being an astrologer, you have to be half crazy.
Yes. That is us, 8th house placements. So
Oh yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you again so much for your time, Zach. I had such a great time chatting with you. This is it. This is how we end it.
Yeah. It was good talking to you, Jen.
And a massive thank you to Zach for being this week's guest. I had such a great time getting to know Zach in Seattle, and the fact that he was willing to come on and chat with me on my podcast. I had such a great time, you guys. Truly, as you guys can probably see throughout the episode, I was learning with y'all in real time. I don't know anything about Vedic astrology. It is definitely a branch of astrology, or I don't even know if that's a proper term. Don't quote me on that. But like, there's just so much to Vedic astrology. And I knew it was very complicated, but like hearing Zach in real time and like hearing his interpretations and breaking down like the foundation of Vedic, I was like, yeah, girl, good luck. Like that is a whole different language. So I was learning with you guys. I hope I didn't make myself look like a complete fool, because I was just asking the questions that came to mind, truthfully. Whatever first popped up into my mind, I was like, that is the question that we are asking, because it's like there's so much and I wanted to get really into it, but that also wasn't really this type of episode. So who knows, maybe Zach will come back on and can tell us more about some of the foundations of Vedic astrology. You guys know I usually do my music recommendations. However, for this episode, I decided just to recommend songs with Zach in real time. He had all of his figured out. I did not. I knew I was going to recommend Nirvana, but I was just like, let me figure out what the other one was. So yeah, your guys' surprise song was iconic by mistake. It was such a banger. All of them are bangers, truthfully. So if you guys are looking for your music recommendations, you have to go to that part of the episode, because that's where it is. If you made it this far, drop me a alien emoji with the guitar. Yeah, an alien emoji with the guitar. I just want to know y'all have made it, that you guys are listening. However, I will not jive you guys on your collective affirmation. I'm going to be using, they're not actually an affirmation, they're motivational cards. I use these in one of my other episodes, but these are cat calls. Focus. Yeah, there we go. Motivational cards. One of my favorite 5 and Below finds. I got these with my baby niece. She helped me pick them out. So let's see. What is our weekly collective affirmation for everyone? Or I guess motivation. Yeah, motivational cards saying, I don't know. Okay, universe, please give our listeners their weekly motivation card. Let's see. Okay, you guys got do your best and forget the rest. That is definitely a message for myself. Something that I need to do is, it's fine if I'm stuttering. It's fine if I'm not, asking the right questions. It's fine if the camera's not focusing. I struggle with perfectionist tendencies, and I'm sure you guys know that if you've been following me for a while. So yeah, that is your guys' card. Do your best and forget the rest. I don't know how much more direct we can be. Like, don't get lost in the details, y'all. Don't get lost in the details. So, okay, my friends, we're keeping this ending very short and sweet. Yeah, I guess I shall see you guys in the next episode. Another interview. Who's it gonna be? TBD. Bye.